Hello, and welcome to Career Pathing for the Higher Education Community, Competency-Based Leadership. I'm Whitney Kilgore, co-founder and Chief Academic Officer of iDesign.
And I'm Veronica Diaz. I'm the Director of Professional Learning at Educause.
And I'm Leah Sharan Davis, and I'm the Vice President of Learning Design at iDesign. So today, this discussion is to share what we've learned about the competencies that are needed for a higher education professional and to discuss the future needs of the community. In this session, we will share and reflect upon core management and leadership skills that are needed to advance in the workplace today, and those you might already possess, and those that you might need to acquire to achieve your professional goals. With that said, today's outcomes are exploring competencies needed in various higher education career pathways, reviewing a competency-based self-assessment inventory of leadership and management skills for higher education professionals, and then we'll finally engage in an open discussion about a competency-based and career pathway approach to enhance leadership skills. So we are here, and if you have anything to ask during the session, please feel free to type in the chat.
Thanks, Leah. We're going to approach this session in an interview style. So let's start by framing a few of the ideas. Over the last several years, the trend across higher education has been moving towards competency-based pathways and the unbundling of educational experiences, lifelong learning, and serving the educational needs of individuals beyond the degree has been the focus of many higher education institutions. More broadly and practically, the application of leadership and management in COVID times are focused on leading remote and virtual teams, coaching team members, and providing blended or online professional development for leaders, all while keeping gender parity and diversity, equity, and inclusion front of mind. Educause has been thinking about how to best support higher education leaders and managers in this new blended and online format for some time. And that thinking paid off as the Educause Institutes were offered in an online format for the first time, just as COVID hit and the face-to-face institutes were canceled. Veronica, can you tell me what prompted Educause to consider moving the institutes online pre-COVID?
Yeah, thanks, Whitney. So Educause, as we mentioned, has a suite of leadership and management programs that face various sectors of the higher education community, like teaching and learning, security professionals. And in 2019, we embarked on a pretty significant review that consisted of us speaking to graduates of the programs over the years, the faculty that had taught in the programs from the community. And we also looked at the workforce IT study just to make sure that the content was updated and we were addressing the right things. And more importantly, looking forward to what professionals were going to need to be successful in the field in the years to come. And so the other reason that we thought about moving this online is we really wanted to adopt a more self-paced, paced out approach to learning that gave people the flexibility to do a few things that they were not able to do in the online and the face-to-face versions. So access was a major consideration for us. Folks sometimes didn't have the time to travel, the money to travel, and they really needed time to think through and apply. There were various learning styles that we were trying to accommodate. And so we didn't want it to be an immersive 4-day experience, but rather a more prolonged opportunity that let people think about what they were learning and think about how to apply it to their local context. So those were some of the few things that we were aiming to accomplish. And actually, we were doing that anyway, and it just turned out that it was a really good time to do that as a result of what happened in 2020.
Thank you. Leah, there may be others who are attending this session who are thinking about how their organization or institution might consider building professional online learning for adult learners. What are some of the key considerations they should keep front of mind?
Yes, so when we embarked upon this, working with Veronica and her team to build out these institutes, we quickly realized that there was not a significant difference between building these programs and also a degree program in general. We had to think about all the internal support and resources, the external support, all of the expertise that was needed across, subject matters, instructional design. We also then looked at micro-credentialing, right? So adult learning really they want to be able to apply quickly and show their creds as soon as they as soon as they earn them. We also considered a variety of platforms that were available and that were accessible to be able to meet the programmatic and instructional goals. And then how do you bring all that together to make it a cohesive, engaging learning experience?
Awesome. And Veronica, I have to ask, why did you choose iDesign as your partner in this?
Yeah, so because we serve the higher education community, we really wanted a partner who had deep experience in that area. And also, we wanted someone who understood very well how to build competency-based professional learning that faces an adult learner, a professional adult learner. And that was a pretty unique skill set, I think. We also wanted an organization that understood how to build humanized, personal, engaging online learning. We think the higher education community is particularly sensitive to having high quality online experiences. And so we wanted a model that really resonated with them, and that addressed the very important skills that they're looking to accomplish through our learning programs.
Thank you. Leah, when you think about engaging in the competency based kind of development and revision process, starting with what the Educause community had already brought to the table, what was that process like and how did it unfold?
Well, thank you for your question. And as we also got started on the project, we had the opportunity to set up and conduct focus groups. It was super interesting to listen to the faculty who had taught face to face and the participants who also attended face to face. And then we also interviewed the Educause staff to make sure that we were meeting with all of the most important stakeholders across the project. We reviewed student data, we reviewed titles. We even went so far as to make sure that every institute was sort of encompassing what we saw as trends in the higher education field. We, of course, then looked at skills and abilities, and then took all that feedback on experience. We also reviewed institutions and organizations that had similar goals in developing adult learners in leadership and management, such as the Harvard IT Academy, some Stanford. And then finally, we analyzed current face-to-face curriculum, but also a huge part of that was through the Chloe report and ONET Online, the Educause Landscape Survey, to look at the job market indicators and workforce data to make sure that what we were creating was going to be relevant and applicable.
So, Veronica, for these programs specifically, why was it important to focus on competency based learning, and how do these pathways relate to the work being done relative to micro learning and upskilling?
Yeah, so thanks, Whitney. This is the first competency-based program that Educause has ever built in its history. And we felt like for much of our community, developing leadership and management skills can really be quite an ambiguous process, right? You hear the terms, but you don't really know what it means specifically in a way that you can address it in a very measurable, quantifiable way and build your career plan around it, right? Kind of by determining what are your gaps. And that kind of need in the community fits really well with a competency-based learning approach. And so we did a lot of things around that approach. And what you're looking at here is the competencies, the core competencies across all of the programs. So there's really nice alignment. And we wanted to ensure that there wasn't any redundancies. So when people went from program to program, they were building and acquiring a different level of that skill. So it was really, really important to do, and something that you can't really do unless you have a competency-based approach. We wanted to identify hard and soft skill experiences. We wanted to give people a chance and even a vocabulary to talk about what they had learned to do that they couldn't do before. And this is important for them personally to have, those ideas of what are my skills, to be able to reflect that on something like LinkedIn, and also to talk to it about with their supervisor to explain what are the things that they've acquired through this experience, all things that really build value in investing this time. The other thing too is that there are a few competency areas that are in the program, but also really stood out for us that are differentiators for our learners and our community. And those are things like digital transformation, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and data literacy, which is turning out to be a core fundamental skill in advancement. So, putting our head around all of this and putting out programs really ended up building the foundation, not only for the Institute programs, but for other kinds of experiences that we knew our learners were going to have to seek, like volunteering, like seeking a mentor, and even formal learning, like getting an MBA or a PhD. So really trying to figure out the map of what those experiences can be like for our community and how to personalize the learning experience and the pathway for them. And here you see just an example of one of the Institute programs and what that looks like in a very quantifiable way. So you can see this maps very nicely also to a micro-credentialing approach. And what a great way to be able to talk to your supervisor and even your team about the kinds of skills that you acquired and things that you're able to do and continue working on, because we really believe these programs are a starting point.
And you mentioned a little bit about the self-assessment as we worked through the development of these programs. Can you tell us a little bit more about the self-assessment development and maybe some of the initial data that's coming back from those first cohorts?
Yeah, definitely. As we had so many happy unintended consequences of heading in this direction. One of those is what you see here, which is just a kind of a snapshot of one of the self-assessments that we give participants before they begin a program to get them to reflect on who they are today. And also to start building that map that I was talking about, where they want to go in the program, right? Being a more directed learner. And then afterwards as well. It's a great professional development tool, a great tool for supervisors to use for their employees, has lots of different purposes. And as we started building the programs, we administered these to our first two programs that we piloted this year. And some of the early results are back, and I thought I would share those. Those are always interesting to think about. For our new managers program, folks identified themselves the lowest on cost management and human resource performance and motivation. Those are two of the competencies in the program. And the top rated competency was leadership practices for new managers. So this is a great indicator both to our faculty who are getting ready to teach in the program and to the learners where to focus their time and attention. Management, which is for kind of the next level after the new manager, those participants said they were needing most support in team development and optimization and management values and decisions. So again, just a great tool to have in your learning process and to continue on as you continue your path.
Excellent. And Veronica, could you speak to how the learners themselves have spoken about this learning experience and how it's impacted them both personally and professionally?
Sure. I mentioned we had lots of unintended consequences. One of those, for the professionals that we serve, these online programs ended up being the first time that many of them ever were an online learner. And that's fantastic. That's a real empathy building experience. We heard things like, oh, this is really interesting. Now I know what it's like for our faculty. So what a powerful thing to be able to have the experience of what the folks that you serve are doing, what the faculty are trying to do as they teach online, and what your learners are going through at the higher education institution where you work, what that experience is like, and just going through the challenges and the high points, the opportunities, what you liked about it, how you engaged online. We just thought, that's fantastic. We didn't expect that. And it was a nice takeaway for them.
Fabulous. Now, we've talked a lot about Pathways programs, but how do these online institutes support Educause's Professional Pathways initiative? And what can we expect from the future of Educause professional learning?
Yeah, so I mentioned that the competency work is a great foundation. And for us, that was only kind of the first phase. The second phase is looking at what it takes for professionals to advance across the Educause communities like security, teaching and learning, enterprise IT, and others. And that's what we're embarking on right now. So we're doing more focus groups with the community and really listening for what are those formative key experiences beyond formal learning that you really need to have. And I'll give you an example. One of our focus groups let us know that, to advance to senior leadership, you really need to have a successful change management initiative to point to. That's a great thing for us to know and for our learners to know as they kind of build that map and say, okay, I need to look for this opportunity as I go through the years and as I seek other roles, other jobs. And how does being part of an association fit into that, right? What kind of mentor can help me get that experience or survive that experience or have a positive story to tell? So we really want to learn more about what that journey looks like and make it clearer, sort of leveling the playing field for people. So that's not just who you know that helps you advance; it's what you know and what are the formative experiences that you're gonna need to have, in your portfolio to talk about. So just really adding clarity and things that are actionable and measurable, I think, is what we're striving for.
Perfect. And Leah and Veronica, this is for both of you. As you think about the experience of preparing, designing, developing, deploying, and now adapting these institutes based on the feedback from the participants and partnering in this effort, are there any takeaways or aha moments that would help others who may be thinking about doing similar work?
Yeah, so I'll start by saying that one of the most valuable elements around our design approach was making sure that the people and the networking opportunities were just right there on point. That would go anywhere between group projects. They have live Zoom calls every week. There's a one-to-one coaching mentoring component with the faculty and the participants. That was just from our focus groups before. that was like the center of everything that we did to design these, other than the competencies. um, then the diverse perspectives in design. So once again, bringing in all of the stakeholders, the key people who are invested in these programs and institutes. And then also, I think, just to piggyback a little bit on what Veronica said, is that um, the students were actually enjoying the online learning affordances that they weren't expecting. And so that was one of my secret hopes when we when we designed these programs.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, we thought a lot about how do you use expert faculty. I mean, these are practitioners, senior leaders in the higher education community, and we really wanted to leverage their time and their experiences. And so we kind of abandoned the presentation element during those live sessions. And instead, we asked them to talk about their own experience to help them connect with the learners and then also helping the learners to connect to each other. We did lots of different breakout rooms and we found that, time is at a premium. And so if you want people to come to those live sessions, there really has to be personal value in it for them. And we had like 95% attendance rate at those live sessions. And I think it's because they got to meet people and network and learn and ask questions and just really use that face-to-face time in the best way possible. So that was another aha moment for us, and something that we plan to really leverage in the future.
Fantastic takeaways for everybody who attended the session. Well, thank you all very much. I appreciate your insights, and thanks to everyone who attended the session today. Please do stay in touch. All three of us would be happy to take any questions that you have via email as a follow-up to the session. But I think we'd all like to just say thank you for your time.
Thanks, everyone.
Yes, thank you.